Hello and Happy New Year. This is the time when we all set those lofty goals to finish all of our unfinished projects and make a quilt for every family member for next holiday season. I'm not setting my goals quite that high, but I do have a special project for 2025. I decided to do a temperature quilt. Fabric in the kitchen, Andy, really? What are you doing? Well, as you can see, we've got pretty good light here, and my daughter has some friends over, so I can't film upstairs because her background noise is right next to my sewing room where I usually make all my videos. So that's what you get. Welcome to my kitchen. Thanks so much for joining us. Happy quilting. This is a project where you follow the temperatures of every day of the year, and it probably started out as like knitting or crochet where you could just take a stitch or do a row according to the temperature, but quilters quickly adopted it, and temperature quilts have been a very popular trend over the last few years. There are lots of fun options. If you search Google, you can see all sorts of different quilt blocks. And the Fat Quarter Shop offers a couple different cross-stitch patterns if that is your craft of choice. So I spent the last few weeks planning out what I was going to do and gathering my fabrics that I'd like to preview for you today. One of the fun things that I am going to do is use this speckled fabric, kind of polka dots was my idea for rainy days, because that doesn't happen very much in Phoenix, Arizona. So I think it will be fun, rather than to chart the high and the low. If we get rain, I'm going to use a solid piece of this speckled fabric that actually has all the other colors that I've planned to use. And that'll be a fun pop throughout the year and very visual reminder of the amount of rainfall that we get here in 2025. Now we're going to start off with the cool colors, of course, and I needed a starting point, obviously, in those low temperatures. So looking at the trends, I know we don't drop anywhere close to freezing very often. We might get an occasional overnight low in the 30s. So I figured I would use this kind of teal, the lightest blue, for those under 40 temperatures, 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which are going to be the rare occasions. We may have overnight lows occasionally that dip down below 40, but you probably won't see this color very often in my quilt. This is the 40 to 50 degree range, my absolute favorite shade of blue. I should have flip-flopped the colors so that my favorite color went with my favorite temperature, but it doesn't work out that way. To me, blues feel much cooler. So this is for any temperature between 40 and 49 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to use this nice bright blue. And then as we warm up a little bit, progressing up the rainbow, I need the darker blue. So this is my 50 to 59 degree shade. And once you get into the 60s, that's, nice springy shorts weather for most of the country. I'm still in long sleeves if we're in the 60s, but those nice, pretty greens. I'm going to use this lighter green, and I've got two different fabrics here of that light green that I'm going to use. I do want this to be a scrappy quilt. I don't necessarily want like 20 squares in a row of exactly the same fabric. So I'm starting with these selections. I'll add in as we go throughout the year, but almost this kind of sage celery green shade is what I'm thinking for my, let me check my notes, my 60 to 69 degrees light green. And then as we get to the 70s, which will probably happen a lot because obviously here in the wintertime in Phoenix, this green can show up as the high temperature. And then as we get further into the summer, the 70s will be the low temperature. And so I'll come back to this really kind of grassy primary green shade. And then as we start warming up, we need to get into the warm colors of the spectrum and the 80s. perfect temperature. I don't think I'll get any argument there. So these nice buttery yellows are going to be my 80-degree range. And then as you start warming up, you get to those darker shades and we start getting into the oranges. I figured this peach, a really soft light orange peach color would be good for the 90s. And I only have a few small scraps of this, so I probably will have to supplement this peach shade definitely, because 90s shows up on Phoenix temperatures quite a bit. And then when we get to the hundreds, I need a much bolder orange for 100 to 109. And yes, we do spend a lot of the year, May, June, and then into October sometimes with temperatures that are still triple digits. But we've got a ways to go. So then once we break the 110, we need some bright, bold reds. So that is my 110 to 119 category, is this bright red. And then 120 and above, yes, I hope it's a very rare occurrence, but looking at trends, we could hit 120 several times throughout the year. So I've got a nice dark burgundy there. And that completes my range. I'm anticipating a few temperatures lower than 40 and then a few temperatures up at 120 and everything in between. So I think this will be a fun project. I'm planning to actually use half rectangle triangles for my units as I track the high and low temperature each day. If you've been around True Blue quilts for a while, that I love working with half rectangle triangles. So this will be a whole quilt of those units. And I think that will give me a nice rectangular quilt when I'm finished, because I plan on laying out each month horizontally and then putting some space in to give me a nice rectangular quilt when I'm done. So stick around. We'll have updates throughout the year as I get going on a temperature quilt for 2025. I am going to be making half rectangle units for my daily squares, with the high temperature in the upper right, and then the lower left corner will be the low temperature each day. And we've been having a very mild winter here in Phoenix, so we've got highs in the 70s and lows in the 40s for this first week of January 2025. To keep things organized, I am cutting a strip of fabric and then putting it in a Ziploc baggie to keep all of my fabrics together, because we'll be mixing and matching. And then the triangles that I don't use each day will be put back in those scrap bags as well. And we'll just keep moving throughout the year. Something else to look forward to in February is the Quilted Virtual Summit. This is a 2-day session, all completely free classes from about 25 different quilters. And you can sign up using the link in the description below. I will be teaching a session on half rectangle triangles. So if you want to see other things that you can do with this fun quilting unit, then please join me at the Quilted Summit. See you then.